Well, I'm very delighted to help out in Greg's campaign. I remember meeting him for the first time just about 5 years ago right now when I was running for city council and he was as well. And I didn't know him and really got to know him only when you had these candidate events. And by the end of the campaign, people come up to you when you're a candidate and they say, well, I'm going to vote for you and I'm going to vote for candidate X and Y, but I have a couple more votes to use. Who should I vote for? By the end of the campaign, I was telling anybody who asked, vote for Greg Scharff. He was really the most impressive newcomer on the ballot that year, and I think that the fact that he was the first member of that class to become mayor shows the respect for all of us have for him. I want to talk a little bit about 3 reasons why I'm for Greg that aren't going to be part of a major part of the campaign, but I think they show what type of council member he's been. The 3 are ABAG. The second, people know that one. The second is NCPA, and the third is IBRIC. And each of them, I think, shows a way that Greg has really contributed to our city. Greg has been our representative on ABAG, and he's now on the executive committee, or whatever it's called, the executive committee. So he's worked his way up the chart, where he can have an influence on this. And I think this shows the respect that the other people at ABAG have had, that this person who's representing Palo Alto, which has been a severe critic of the ABAG process, is able to be on the executive committee. So he's really doing a great job in representing us. The second, which shows a very different one, is IBRIC, which stands, for those few of you who don't know, stands for Infrastructure Blue Ribbon Commission. People have been talking about how we have infrastructure needs in Palo Alto for quite a while. And Greg and I and a few others finally decided we were going to do something about this. But of course, given the Palo Alto process, you can't do it overnight. And the city didn't really have a firm grasp as to how much were our needs. There were all types of numbers thrown around. So we created the Infrastructure Blue Ribbon Commission, 20-odd people, plus people in Palo Alto who hadn't been involved in these things before, did great work over almost a 4-year period, analyzing what our needs were, cutting out lots of projects, recommending how we should go about it. And that came to the council, and and Greg and I and a few others really worked those proposals over. And we've now identified about a couple $100 million, not the $500 million we started with, of projects that we really desperately need, and come up with a way to finance it. All the financing's in place except for one last item, which is Measure B on your ballot this year. So a little plug for Measure B, which is to increase our chance of occupancy tax by 2% from 12 to 14, which through the alchemy of municipal financing will enable us to get the last 30 or 40 million to finance things such as a new public safety building, 2 new firehouses. If you haven't been to the firehouses on Embarcadero at Rinconada Park and the one here at Mitchell Park, well, all you have to do is have a quick tour from the firefighters and you'll see how obsolete those facilities are. Would also fund our bike lane project. Will get us where we need to be with regard to repaving and improving our streets and sidewalks. And it absolutely needed, and again, Greg's work was absolutely instrumental in 2 ways. One, the hard slogging work, but also the creativity, the inspiration that we should move forward and get the job done. The last one is, in this category, is NCPA, which stands for Northern California Power. As you all know, we own our own electrical system. There are other cities in Northern California that also own their systems. Around here, Santa Clara is the other big one, Alameda, and there are a bunch of other smaller cities. And we work together with them in some things that we jointly own with them, various policy issues. And we've been fortunate over the years to have a number of city councilmen who have served in this role. And it is a very, very demanding and time-consuming one. Demanding a lot about very technical stuff, how it's transmitted, how and when, peak demands, like when you have a hot day in September and a lot of air conditioning goes on all over Northern California, where are we going to get the extra power from? time demanding because the meetings of this agency take place in Roseville. And everybody knows where Roseville is, right? And so you've got to drive from Palo Alto to Roseville, take up more than a full day. It's really a great contribution when we've had somebody on the council who is willing to put in the time and effort. Greg's been our man the last couple of years. And I think that's something that you're not going to hear. Nobody's going to debate it during the campaign. But I have to tell you that having served with a lot of different council members over the years, there's some who don't want to do anything along those lines. It's just too demanding. And you don't really find out about that until after they're elected. But in Greg, we have somebody who is willing to put in the time and who is willing to put in the effort to learn all about it. So he's my man.